So much is happening in this episode of the history of Arrowhead Springs. We see Seth Marshall say goodbye to the hotel. Also, the resort rides out the depression of the 1930s. And then to be bought out by some of its clientele from Hollywood, who put on an extravagant grand opening of a new 6-story hotel after fire claimed the Big Buff Castle. And lastly, the resort is drafted into the military once again as the world is plunged into another global conflict. One of the giants in the story of Arrowhead Springs retired in 1925 and sold his interests to the Blankenhorn Syndicate for over $1 million. So much had taken place at the Springs under Seth's leadership. These two old postcards show the Penugal Hot Springs on the left and pool area on the right. The Penugal Hot Springs is the most famous of all the springs. It is known for having the hottest spring water in the world. It comes out of the ground at 202 degrees. Any hotter than that it would just be steam. For fun they used to cook ham and boil eggs in it. One postcard looks up at the hotel, and the other shows the view of the valley from the resort. In the late 1920s into the 30s, many bungalows were built east of the main hotel. They were popular with the rich and famous and became legendary party houses for the Hollywood crowd. Many of these structures are still there today. Arrowhead Springs Resort made it through the Depression of the early 1930s. Largely because the well-to-do clientele fared better than most Americans. All the time the hotel became more and more popular with the Hollywood celebrities, who enjoyed the privacy and close locality to Los Angeles. The Arrowhead Country Club is about 3 miles from the hotel and has been involved with it over the years. At one time the resort owned this golf club, where many of the guests, including celebrities, played. In 1938, CBS executive Jay Paley put together a group of investors from Hollywood to purchase the Arrowhead Springs Hotel. The group included actors and studio bosses. Claudette Colbert, Ul Jolson, Lou Anger, Darryl Zanuck, Joseph Schenck, William Getz, Constance Bennett, Edgar Mannix, these were the main investors of the resort. The new buyers purchased the resort in October of 1938. The president of the group, Jay Paley, announced that they would invest almost $1 million into renovations and modernizations of the resort. In November of 1938, less than 2 months after the Hollywood group purchased the resort, fire claimed the Arrowhead Springs Hotel for the 3rd time. This newspaper article says that 50-mile-an-hour Santa Ana winds fanned the flames that brought Arthur Benton's Big Buff Castle down to the ground. Another era of Arrowhead Springs has ended in ashes. Another newspaper photo shows the hotel still smoldering in the aftermath of the firestorm that swept through Arrowhead Springs. It seems that at that point the new owners could have picked up and walked away from trying to put up structures in this fire-prone area. Instead, they decided to put up a new hotel and resort that would be harder to burn down. Only a couple months after the fire, 30 workers were hired to clear the debris and make way for the new hotel. The Arrowhead Springs Phoenix is rising once again. This article in October of 1939 shares the progress of the new hotel and that it will open in December, only 13 months after the fire destroyed the previous resort. And there it was. The new fire-resistant, fourth hotel at Arrowhead Springs. Designed by Paul Revere Williams and appointed by interior designer Dorothy Draper.
Here is the arched entrance to the hotel, followed by several photos of the new glamorous Arrowhead Springs Resort. This color photograph shows the bold colors of Dorothy Draper's interior design.
On opening night of the new Arrowhead Springs Resort, a star-studded gala was put on and it was broadcast live across the nation on CBS Radio. It was a who's who of the entertainment world. New Hollywood superstar Judy Garland was on hand to sing 2 songs for the event. The movie The Wizard of Oz had just opened in theaters. Her voice was beyond her years. Judy was only 17 at the time. Judy sang 2 songs for the guests on opening night. The first was Somewhere Over the Rainbow from her movie, and later she came back to banter with Rudy Vallee and closed the show with the song, Comes Love. Here are 2 short clips from her performance.
Skipping right into our midst, wearing her best Pepsodent smile with Irium, is little Judy Garland.
Hello, Mr. Vallee. 'Twas a week before Christmas, and all through the house, not a creature was stirring except the chef at Arrowhead Springs Hotel, and he's stirring up the most delicious lemon meringue pie, so I'll see you later, Mr. Vallee.
Oh, come now, Judy. Are you going to leave me holding the sack?
Can I help it if you want to play Santa Claus?
You know, Judy, I think just before you follow that path leading into the kitchen where the chef is baking the pies, I think you ought to serve us one lovely song with a delightful melody. How about it?
Well, gee, Mr. Vallee, that's taking the long way around to introduce my number, and it's right here on the program, see? Comes Love.
Play it, fellas. Take it away.
I've studied up my trigonometry and my geometry and my Greek. But all the laws of trigonometry are no use to me. They're antique. It doesn't take a lot of figuration, and it doesn't take a college education to know when love is at your door, that 2 and 2 just simply won't make 4. Comes a rainstorm, put your rubbers on your feet. Comes snowstorm, you can get a little heat. Comes love, nothing can be done.
Many big-name Hollywood stars became regulars at the Springs. In the shot, we see Edward G. Robinson sitting with studio boss Samuel L. Goldwyn, plus the Ziegfeld girls playing by the pool, and there is Jimmy Durante working the phones.
Hooray for Hollywood! That's gooey bally-hooly Hollywood, where any office boy or young mechanic can be a panic with just a good-looking plan.
And any shop girl can be a top girl if she pleases the tired businessman.
Hooray for Hollywood! You may be homely in your neighborhood.
Bum, 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 bum. To be an actor, see Mr. Factor, you make your kisser look good.
Go out and try your luck, you may be Donald Duck. Hooray for Hollywood! Hollywood. Hooray for Hollywood!
One of my favorite Humphrey Bogart movies is the 1941 thriller High Sierra, starring Bogey and Ida Lupino. I was thrilled when I learned that part of the film was filmed at Arrowhead Springs. In the movie, Bogey and his minor gangsters plan to rob a fancy resort when the safes are full with loot from the customers of the hotel. These next two photos are from the movie, and they show Bogey casing the joint before the heist. Bogey was no stranger to Arrowhead Springs. He had been coming there as a guest for quite a while. In this photo, we see the two co-stars relaxing by the pool during the filming of High Sierra.
Wow! Almost as fast as the paint dried on the new hotel, there were major problems. It seems that the Hollywood crowd could build a beautiful hotel, but they apparently did not know how to run it. Within 2 years of the grand opening, the hotel was leased out to the Hull Company for a 15-year term. Many factors contributed to the downfall. The first one was that investor Joseph Schenck got himself into tax trouble and ended up serving prison time. Other factors were the emergence of other getaway destinations, mainly Palm Springs and Sin City itself, Las Vegas.
After the attack on Pearl Harbor, the United States was finally drawn into World War II. These ads show that life went on at Arrowhead Springs during the early war years, after the Hull Company was in charge. One thing we know for sure at Arrowhead Springs is that nothing lasts long and change is constant.
The day after Pearl Harbor was attacked, the Navy moved in and took over the Lake Marconian Hotel. This resort is on the other side of the Inland Empire from Arrowhead Springs. In a couple of years, Arrowhead Springs would join the fight. After serving the military for 4 years after World War I, Arrowhead Springs was added again, being drafted by the Navy to serve as a rehabilitation hospital. On May 23, 1944, the doors opened once again to treat our servicemen.
This newspaper article makes the announcement that the Navy is coming back to Arrowhead Springs. With the new beautiful hotel, they plan on having 800 patients rehabilitating at a time. After the Navy moved into the Arrowhead Hotel, they printed a brochure about the facilities. I found it on worthpoint.com.
World War II came to an end in 1945. First, the European conflict ended in May of that year. Japan held out until September, and only after 2 atomic bombs had been dropped on their cities. The world was finally at peace after a terrible war that took the lives of over 50 million people.
This episode was full of triumphs and tragedies. One hotel burnt down and another one rose up to replace it in grand fashion. The Hollywood heyday came and went, along with the Hollywood investors. After the Navy turned the hotel back to the Hull Company, they put over $100,000 into putting it back into resort condition. In 1946, the Hull Company bought the property outright from Paley and Schenck and formed a new company to manage our ever-changing pride of the San Bernardino Mountains. Thank you for joining me for episode 5. In the next episode, we see the hotel go through different owners during the 1950s, and then leaving the resort world altogether. Arrowhead Springs became the worldwide headquarters for the Campus Crusade for Christ.